The letter came on a rainy evening when the whole town looked like it was washing away its sins. I was alone in my small apartment above my father's old repair shop, listening to rain hit the window like tiny stones. The room smelled of wood dust, engine oil and cold coffee. I had just finished fixing an old radio for Mrs. Lane when I saw the white envelope under my door. At first, I thought it was another bill. Then I saw the golden letters. Clara Whitmore and Victor Hale invite you to celebrate their wedding. My fingers froze around the paper. For a few seconds I forgot how to breathe. Clara. The name still knew where to hurt me. I stood there in my dark room, holding that expensive invitation like it was a knife wrapped in silk. The paper was thick, the letters shined. Even her wedding card looked richer than my whole life used to be. I should have laughed. I should have thrown it in the trash. Instead, I sat down on the edge of my bed and read it again. Clara Whitmore, the girl who once held my hand behind my father's workshop and said, "Ethan, I don't need a rich man. I only need you." I closed my eyes, but her voice came back clearer than the rain. I could still see her at 19. Standing under the old maple tree, her brown hair loose around her face, her eyes full of dreams she had not betrayed yet. "You promise?" I had asked her. She smiled and lifted her little silver ring. "I promise." Back then, I believed promises had weight. Now I knew for some promises were just pretty words people used until life became hard. My phone buzzed on the table. I looked at the screen. It was a message from an unknown number. "You should come, Ethan. It will be good for you to see how far Clara has come." No name, but I knew who wrote it. Clara's mother, Evelyn Whitmore. That woman never used a knife when a smile could cut deeper. I stared at the message until the screen went black. My jaw tightened. "Good for me," I whispered. The room stayed silent. Only the rain answered. 3 years ago, when my father died, everything broke at once. The repair shop was drowning in debt. Hospital bills covered the kitchen table. People who used to shake my father's hand suddenly crossed the street to avoid me. And Clara, she cried the night she left. That was the worst part. She did not leave with anger. She left with tears, like her heart was breaking too. Like she wanted me to forgive her before she even finished destroying me. "I can't live like this, Ethan," she had said. I remembered standing in the workshop doorway, my hands black with grease, my shirt dirty from work, my father's coffin barely cold in the ground. "What do you mean?" I asked. She would not look at me. "My mother is right," she whispered. "Love doesn't pay bills." I waited for her to laugh, to say she was scared, to say she did not mean it. But she only removed the ring from her finger. It made the smallest sound when she placed it on the wooden table. That tiny sound stayed with me longer than her goodbye. I picked it up after she left. I should have thrown it away, but pain makes a fool out of a man. I kept it, not because I wanted her back, at least. That was what I told myself. I stood up and walked to the old wooden cabinet beside my bed. The bottom drawer stuck like always, so I pulled harder. Inside, wrapped in a clean cloth, was the last thing my father ever made. A small wooden box, dark walnut, smooth edges, 2 carved birds under a broken moon. He had made it for Clara. For the wedding rings, he had told me, back when he still had strength in his voice. A man should not bring his wife gold only. He should bring her something built by love. I ran my thumb over the carving. My chest tightened. "Dad," I said quietly. "She's marrying someone else." The words sounded strange in the room. Bald, real. For years, I had carried this box like a wound. I had moved it from place to place, never brave enough to open it for long. Inside was Clara's promise ring and a letter I wrote the night she left. A letter I never sent. I opened the box. The ring was still there, small, silver, worth almost nothing. But once it had been worth my whole future. I took the wedding invitation and placed it beside the ring. For a moment, I thought about not going. Why walk into a room full of people who once watched me fall and smiled? Why let them see me again? Why give Clara one more chance to look through me like I was nothing? Then I saw my father's old work gloves on the shelf. His words came back to me. "Son, never let cruel people teach you to become cruel. But never let them bury you either." I looked at the invitation again. The wedding was tomorrow, at the Grand Rose Hall, the most expensive place in town. Of course it was. Clara always said she wanted a small wedding under the maple tree. No cameras, no rich people, just love, music, and my father crying in the front row because he was too soft to hide it. I let out a bitter breath. "That girl died a long time ago," I said. But my voice shook when I said it. That made me angry. After everything, some weak part of me still remembered her as the girl who kissed my hands when they were covered in cuts. The girl who brought soup for my father when he was sick. The girl who once said poor did not mean worthless. Maybe I was not going for her. Maybe I was going for the boy I used to be. The boy who waited for an apology that never came. The boy who kept a promise ring in a wooden box like love could rise from the dead. I took the old letter from the box and unfolded it. The paper had yellowed at the edges. The first line almost made me smile. "Clara, I don't hate you. I just don't know how to survive loving you." I read no more. I folded it again and placed it back inside. Then I closed the box. The sound was soft, but it felt like a door shutting inside me. My phone buzzed again. Another message. "Don't bring anything embarrassing tomorrow. Clara has a new life now." This time I smiled. Not because it was funny. Because for the first time in 3 years, Evelyn Whitmore had made a mistake. She thought I was still the same broken man they left behind. She thought I was coming to beg. She thought I was coming to watch Clara win. I picked up the wooden box and held it under the yellow light. It looked cheap to people who only knew the price of things, but to me, it carried my father's hands, my old dreams, and every quiet night I survived when no one cared if I lived or disappeared. I placed it in a black gift bag, no gold paper, no ribbon, no lie, just the box, just the ring, just the past returned to its owner outside. Thunder rolled over the town. I walked to the window and looked down at the wet street. Across the road, the old sign of my father's shop swung in the wind. Coal repairs, honest work, fair price. People used to laugh at that sign. Now half the town was standing because of money I had given quietly, through names they never connected to me. The hospital wing, the housing project, the workers Victor Hale's company almost threw away. No one in that wedding hall knew. Clara did not know. Victor did not know. Evelyn did not know. And maybe that was why I finally decided to go. Not to show them who I had become, but to see who they really were when they thought I was still nothing. I turned off the light and stood in the dark with the gift in my hand. Tomorrow, Clara Whitmore would laugh at my cheap wedding gift, and tomorrow everyone in that room would learn the price of laughing too soon. The next evening I stood outside the Grand Rose Hall with my father's wooden box in my hand. For a moment I almost turned back. The building was brighter than I remembered. Golden lights covered the front walls, white roses wrapped around tall pillars. Expensive cars lined the entrance like metal trophies. Men in black suits opened doors for people who had never opened a door for themselves. I looked down at my own suit, simple black, clean but not rich. My shoes were polished but old. The gift bag in my hand had no ribbon, no shining paper, no expensive name printed on it, just a plain black bag. A guard at the entrance looked me up and down before he took my invitation. His eyes stayed on my shoes too long. "Guest?" he asked. I looked at him. "That's what the card says." He checked the list, then checked my face again, like the paper had made a mistake. "Name, Ethan Cole." His finger stopped on the page. Something changed in his eyes. Not respect, recognition, the kind people gave to a bad story they had heard years ago. "Oh ho," he said, "you're that Ethan." I smiled a little. "Depends who told you the story." He did not answer. He stepped aside. "Enjoy the wedding, sir." The word sir sounded forced. I walked in. The first thing that hit me was the smell of flowers and money. White roses hung from the ceiling. Crystal lights shined above the hall. A live band played soft music near the stage. Every table had tall candles, silver plates, and guests dressed like they were afraid poverty was a disease they might catch. And then I saw them, people from my past. Mr. Dalton, who once begged my father to fix his truck for free, now turned his head before our eyes could meet. Mrs. Whitmore's church friends, who used to call my father a good, honest man, looked at me like I had walked into the wrong life. Old neighbors, old customers, old liars. They all remembered me, but not one of them wanted to be the first to say my name. I kept walking. Each step felt like walking through a room full of ghosts who had learned how to smile. Then I heard her voice. Well, I stopped. Evelyn Whitmore stood near the center table in a silver dress that looked colder than her heart. Her hair was perfect. Her smile was perfect. Her eyes were not. They were sharp, cruel, happy. "Ethan Cole," she said loudly, "you actually came." A few heads turned, then more. The music did not stop, but it felt quieter. I held the gift bag at my side. "You invited me," Evelyn laughed softly. "I did, but I did not think you would be brave enough." "Brave?" I asked. "To come here," she said, looking around the hall, "and see how far Clara has moved on." The words were gentle, the meaning was not. A man near her table covered a smile with his glass. I felt heat rise in my chest, but I kept my face calm. "That must make you very proud," I said. Evelyn leaned closer. "It does. A mother wants her daughter to choose security." "Security," I repeated. "Yes," she said, "not struggle, not debt, not a repair shop that smells like oil and failure." My hand tightened around the gift bag. For 1 second, I saw my father's tired face, his hands shaking as he carved the wooden box for a wedding that never happened. I wanted to say something cruel, something sharp enough to make Evelyn's smile fall, but my father's voice came back. "Never let cruel people teach you to become cruel," so I only said, "My father's shop smelled like honest work." Evelyn's smile twitched. Before she could answer, a few people behind her began whispering. Then the crowd shifted, and I saw Clara. She stood at the far end of the hall in her wedding dress. For a second, everything else disappeared. The lights, the guests, the music, Evelyn's poison smile. All of it faded. Clara looked beautiful. That made it worse. Her white dress flowed like something from a dream. Her brown hair was pinned back with small pearls. Her makeup was perfect, but her eyes were not ready for me. The moment she saw me, her smile froze. Her fingers tightened around the flowers in her hand. I knew that look. She remembered, maybe not everything, but enough to know the man in the simple suit was not just an old guest. Enough to know the plain black bag in my hand carried something heavier than money. For one heartbeat, I saw the girl from the maple tree. Then a man stepped beside her and placed his arm around her waist. Victor Hale. I had seen his face on business magazines, charity posters, and town banners. The kind of man people called successful because they were too scared to call him dangerous. He was tall, clean, and expensive. His smile looked like it had never been told no. He looked at me the way rich men look at broken things. So, Victor said, walking closer with Clara beside him, "This is Ethan." Clara's lips parted. "Victor." He raised one hand, still smiling. No, I want to meet him." The guests around us grew quiet enough to listen. Victor stopped in front of me and looked me over from my old shoes to my simple tie. Then his eyes landed on the gift bag. "You brought a gift too?" I nodded. "I did." His smile widened. "Let me guess, a set of used tools?" A few people laughed. Not loud, not yet, just enough to test if it was safe. Evelyn smiled like she had been waiting for this. Clara looked down. That small movement hurt more than Victor's words. She did not laugh, but she did not stop him either. Victor took one step closer. "Or maybe engine oil. I heard your family was in that line of work." I looked at Clara, just once. I wanted her to say my father's name with respect. I wanted her to remember he had fed her when her own family was too proud to admit they were struggling. I wanted her to look at Victor and say, "Don't speak about him that way." But she only held her flowers tighter, so I looked back at Victor. "No," I said. "It's something more honest than that." His eyes narrowed for a second. Then he laughed. The room laughed with him. That was the thing about rich men like Victor. They did not need to be funny. People laughed because they were afraid not to. Evelyn touched Clara's arm. "Come, darling, the gift ceremony will start soon." Clara finally looked at me. Her eyes were soft for half a second. "Ethan," she whispered. "Just my name, nothing else." But even that felt dangerous. Victor noticed. His hand tightened around her waist. "What?" he asked. "Old memories." Clara blinked fast and forced a smile. "No," she said, "just surprised he came." There it was, the wall. The same wall she had built 3 years ago when she handed me back the ring and chose a life without me. I nodded slowly. "Congratulations," I said. The word tasted like ash. Clara swallowed. "Thank you." Victor looked pleased, like he had won something. But he had no idea what kind of game had already started. A waiter passed with champagne. Victor took a glass and raised it toward me. "To moving up in life," he said. I looked at his glass. Then at Clara, then at the plain black bag in my hand. "Yes," I said quietly. "Some people move up. Some people only climb over others and call it progress." Victor's smile faded. The guests stopped laughing. For the first time that night, the room felt the edge in my voice. Clara's eyes widened. Evelyn's face hardened. Victor leaned in close, still pretending to smile. "Careful," he said. "This is my wedding." I looked straight at him. "No," I said. "It's your stage." Then I glanced around the hall full of people who once watched me fall. "And everyone here is waiting for a show." Victor's jaw tightened. Before he could speak, the wedding planner stepped to the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, "we will now begin the gift ceremony." A bright spotlight turned toward the front table. My father's wooden box suddenly felt heavier in my hand. Clara looked at it, then at me, and for the first time that night, fear crossed her face. Not fear of me, fear of what she had left behind. I followed the guests toward the stage, my heart beating slow and hard. The whole room was about to laugh. They just did not know they were laughing at the last quiet moment before. Everything changed. The gift ceremony began like a parade of money. One by one, guests walked to the front table and placed their gifts under the bright lights. Gold envelopes, diamond bracelets, designer boxes, a set of keys to a luxury car that made the whole room clap like Victor had just cured a disease. I stood near the back with my plain black gift bag in my hand. Nobody looked at me now. They were too busy worshipping wealth. Victor stood beside Clara on the small stage, smiling like a king receiving tribute. Every time someone gave him something expensive, he laughed louder. Every time someone praised Clara's beauty, Evelyn lifted her chin higher. Clara smiled too. But her eyes kept finding the bag in my hand. I noticed. So did Victor. He leaned close to her and whispered something. Clara's smile tightened. Then Evelyn stepped toward the microphone. "My dear friends," she said warmly, "thank you for blessing my daughter and her wonderful husband-to-be with so much love." The room clapped. Evelyn's eyes moved across the hall until they landed on me. Her smile changed. It became slow, hungry. "And now," she said, "I believe we have one more gift, a very special one." My stomach turned. She did not say my name yet. She let the silence build first. People looked around. Then Evelyn raised her hand toward me. "Ethan Cole," she said, "please come forward." The hall went quiet in a way that felt planned. I heard a soft laugh from the table on my left. Someone whispered, "He actually brought something?" Another voice said, "Maybe a coupon for free repairs." I looked down at the wooden box inside the bag. For a second I wanted to leave. Not because I was scared of them, because I suddenly felt my father stand beside me in memory, holding that box with pride, and I hated that these people were about to touch something he made with love. But I walked forward anyway. Each step felt heavier than the last. The lights hit my face when I reached the stage. Victor's smile was wide. Clara's was gone. Her eyes were locked on the bag now. She knew. Maybe she did not know everything, but she knew enough. Evelyn held out her hand. "Let us see what you brought, Ethan." I did not give it to her. I placed the bag gently on the gift table and looked at Clara. "This is for you," I said. My voice was calm, too calm. Clara's fingers trembled as she reached for it. Victor noticed and laughed. "Careful, darling," he said. "It might be fragile." A few people laughed. Clara slowly pulled the wooden box out of the bag. The laughter softened, not because they respected it, because they were confused. Compared to the gold and diamonds on that table, the box looked small, plain, almost foolish, dark walnut wood, smooth edges. 2 birds carved under a broken moon. Clara stopped breathing. I saw it. Her thumb touched the carving, her lips parted just a little. For 1 second, the wedding hall disappeared from her face. She was back in my father's workshop. She was 19 again. She was holding my hand and saying forever like she understood the word. Then Victor's voice cut through it. "This is it?" The room laughed. Clara blinked. The old look vanished. Victor picked up the box from her hands and turned it around like he was checking for a price tag. "A wooden box," he said. "That's your wedding gift." I kept my eyes on Clara. She would not look at me now. Victor lifted the box higher so everyone could see it. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "I think we have found the cheapest gift of the night." The laughter grew. This time it was not soft. It filled the room. It hit the walls. It hit my chest. Evelyn covered her mouth like she was trying to hide her smile. "Victor," Clara whispered, "don't." That one word almost broke me, because she said it too quietly. Too late. Victor opened the box. The room was still laughing when he saw the ring. He froze for half a second. Then his eyes sharpened. "Well," he said slowly. Clara's face turned pale. "Victor," she said again. He reached inside and lifted the small silver promise ring between 2 fingers. The lights caught it. It did not shine like the diamonds on Clara's hand. It looked simple, small, poor, but once it had carried my whole life. Victor turned to the guests. "Looks like our friend brought my bride an old ring." A loud gasp moved through the room. Then came whispers. Evelyn's face hardened, but her eyes looked excited. She wanted drama. She wanted blood. "Is this a joke?" "No," I said. "It is a return." "A return," he repeated. I nodded. It belonged to her. Clara's eyes filled with something I almost recognized as shame. Victor laughed again, but this time anger sat under it. "You brought my bride a poor man's memory." I stepped closer. "No," I said. I brought back something she threw away before it could rot in my heart. The room went still. For one moment, nobody laughed. Clara stared at me like I had slapped her without touching her. Victor's smile faded. Then he looked at Clara. "Is this true?" Clara opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Evelyn stepped in quickly. "Oh, Victor, don't be upset," she said. It was a childish thing from years ago. Ethan always had simple feelings. Simple, that word landed like dirt on my father's grave. Victor smirked again, feeling safe because Evelyn had given him permission. He held the ring toward Clara. "Darling," he said, "did you really wear this?" Clara looked at the ring, then at the guests, then at Victor, then at me. I saw the battle inside her, memory against pride, truth against image, love against fear. For 1 second I thought she might finally choose right. She took the ring from Victor, her fingers curled around it. Her eyes grew wet, then someone near the front whispered, "How embarrassing." Her face changed. She smiled. It was small at first, forced, painful. Then she let out a soft laugh, the sound cut deeper than Victor's words. "Yes," she said, looking at the ring. "Ethan always had simple taste." The room laughed again. But I did not hear the room anymore. I heard only her, that laugh, that one small laugh. It killed the last living part of my past. Victor grinned and placed his hand on Clara's back. "Well," he said, "we should thank him. Not everyone gets to see how far they've upgraded." More laughter. Clara laughed too. But her voice cracked. I noticed. I always noticed too much. That was my curse. I reached for the wooden box, but Victor pulled it away. "Leaving so soon?" he asked. "I came to return it," I said. "Not watch you perform with it." He leaned closer. "Careful mechanic." I looked at his hand on my father's box, then at his face. My father made that, I said quietly. Take your hand off it. The hall fell silent again. Victor's smile turned cold. Or what? Before I could answer, Clara stepped between us. Enough, she said, but she was looking at me, not him, as if I was the problem. That was when I understood. She had not only left me, she had learned to stand on the side of anyone who made her feel safe, even if they were wrong. I nodded slowly. Then I reached into the box and took out the old letter. Clara's eyes widened. She knew what it was, maybe not the words, but she knew it belonged to the night she broke me. I held the letter for a second, then I tore it in half. A sharp sound split the silence. Clara flinched. I tore it again, and again white pieces fell onto the gift table like dead snow. There, I said. Now the gift is complete. Clara whispered my name. Ethan. I looked at her one last time. You laughed, I said. Her lips trembled. Victor scoffed. Don't act wounded. You came here asking for this. I turned to him. No, I said. I came here to close a door. Then I looked around the room, at the guests, at Evelyn, at Clara, at every person who thought a man's worth could be measured by the shine of his gift. And all of you, I said, just showed me why it needed to be locked. I picked up my empty black bag and stepped away from the table. Behind me, I heard Evelyn whisper. How dramatic. I kept walking. But before I reached the hallway, Victor's phone rang. He looked at the screen annoyed. Then his face changed. Just a little. Not enough for the room to notice, but enough for me. His smile dropped. His hand tightened around the phone. What do you mean frozen? He hissed. I stopped near the doorway. Clara heard it too. She looked at Victor. What's wrong? She asked. Victor turned away from her. Nothing, he snapped. But it was not nothing. I knew that tone. It was the sound of a man hearing the first crack in the wall he thought would protect him. Forever. I looked back once. Clara stood under the lights, holding my father's box like it had suddenly become heavier than all the diamonds in the room. Our eyes met. For the first time that night she was not laughing. She looked afraid, and maybe she should have been, because the room had enjoyed my humiliation. But the night was not over, not even close. I stepped into the hallway before anyone could see my hands shaking. The wedding hall behind me was still full of music, laughter, and fake smiles. But out there, away from the lights, the air felt colder. I stopped near a tall window and looked at the rain sliding down the glass. For 3 years, I had imagined seeing Clara again. Sometimes I thought she would cry. Sometimes I thought she would apologize. Sometimes, in the weakest part of my mind, I thought she would look at me and remember who she used to be, but I had never imagined her laughing. Not at me. At the gift, at my father's hands. At the last honest thing I had brought from a life she buried. I pressed my fingers against my eyes and took one slow breath. Don't break here, I whispered to myself. Not here. Behind me. The hallway door opened. I did not turn. I already knew it was her. Clara's perfume reached me before her voice did. Soft, expensive. Different from the girl who used to smell like rain and old books. Ethan. My name sounded smaller in her mouth now. I kept looking out the window. Go back inside. She stepped closer. Please don't leave like this. That made me laugh once. It was not a happy sound. How should I leave, Clara? I asked. Should I smile? Should I thank everyone for laughing at my dead father's work? She flinched. I didn't mean it like that. I turned then. Her wedding dress filled the narrow hallway like a white lie. You laughed, I said. Her eyes dropped. I panicked. No, I said. You chose. Her face tightened, but I could see the tears building behind her pride. You don't understand what it was like, she whispered. I stared at her. I almost could not believe she had said that. What it was like, I repeated. My father was dying. The shop was drowning. I was working 16 hours a day with blood under my nails, and you stood in front of me and said love did not pay bills. Her lips trembled. I was scared. So was I said. But I did not leave. The words hit her. I saw it. For 1 second her face broke. Then she looked back toward the wedding hall like someone inside might catch her being human. That small look told me everything. Even now, after all these years, she was still more afraid of what people thought than what was true. I have a life now, she said, but her voice was weak. Then go live it. She looked at me fast. Why did you bring the ring? To give it back? No, she said. You wanted to hurt me. I stepped closer, and for the first time that night she did not step back. I wanted you to remember, I said. There is a difference. Her eyes filled. I remember everything, she whispered. That almost broke my anger, almost. I remembered her sitting beside my father's hospital bed, holding his hand, promising him she would never leave me alone. I remembered her crying at his funeral like she had lost family. I remembered thinking grief would bring us closer. But grief only showed me what people were made of. If you remembered, I said, you would not have laughed. She wiped one tear before it could fall. Victor was watching. I looked at her left hand. The diamond ring on her finger was big enough to blind a room. And that matters more than truth. She did not answer. That silence was her answer. Before I could speak again, the hallway door opened hard. Victor walked out with his phone in one hand and anger in his eyes. "There you are," he snapped at Clara. She turned quickly. "Victor?" I saw," he said. His eyes moved to me. The polished smile was gone now. Without the crowd, he looked less like a prince and more like a man who needed control to breathe. "You don't know when to disappear, do you?" he said. I put my hands in my pockets. "I was trying." Victor laughed under his breath. "Men like you always say that. But you keep standing near things you can't have." Clara's face went pale. "Victor, stop." He ignored her. His phone buzzed again. He looked down. The anger in his eyes changed into something sharper. Fear. He tried to hide it, but I saw it. I had spent years doing business with men who smiled while losing everything. Their faces always changed the same way when the ground opened under them. Victor turned away and answered the call. "What now?" he hissed. A voice on the other end spoke fast. I could not hear every word, but I heard enough. "Frozen account, emergency audit, board meeting, investor withdrawal." Victor's shoulders went stiff. "No," he said. "No, that cannot happen tonight." Clara stared at him. "Victor?" He covered the phone and snapped. "Go back inside." She froze. His tone was not loving, it was an order, and for the first time, I saw Clara see it too. The perfect life she had chosen had teeth. Victor turned away again. "Listen to me. Find out who signed the complaint. I don't care how. Find out now." My chest went quiet. So it had started. I had not planned for it to happen during the wedding. Truth has its own timing. 2 weeks ago, my legal team had sent the final documents to the city office. Victor's company had promised to fund worker housing, then secretly moved the money through shell accounts. Families almost lost their homes because of him. I did not expose him because of Clara. I exposed him because my father had taught me that if a man could stop harm and did nothing, he was part of it. But standing there, watching Victor's face crack on his wedding night, I would be lying if I said I felt nothing. Karma had walked into the hallway wearing a quiet smile. Victor ended the call and turned back to me. His eyes were different now. "Suspicious. You," he said. Clara looked between us. "What?" Victor stepped toward me. "What did you do?" I held his stare. "That depends. What are you afraid I found?" His jaw tightened. Clara's voice shook. "Victor, what is going on?" "Nothing," he barked. She stepped back. I saw her fingers curl around the side of her dress, the same way she used to hold my sleeve when she was scared. Victor pointed at me. "You think you can come into my wedding and play some sad little game?" I smiled faintly. "I don't play games with men who cheat workers out of their homes." His face lost color, only a little, but enough. Clara whispered, "Workers?" Victor turned on her. "Don't start acting stupid in front of him." The hallway went silent. There it was, the first real crack, not in his company. In their marriage before it had even begun. Clara stared at him like he had slapped her. Maybe he had, just with words. I looked at her and said quietly, "Still feel secure?" Her eyes moved to mine. Pain, shame, fear, all of it was there now. Victor stepped between us. "You do not speak to my wife." "She is not your wife yet," I said. His hand shot out and grabbed Clara's wrist. "Too hard," she gasped. I moved before I could think. I caught his wrist. The hallway turned cold. Victor looked down at my hand on him, shocked that I had touched him at all. "Let her go," I said. His eyes burned. "Do you know who I am?" "Yes, that is why I am not afraid." For a second, nobody moved. Then Clara pulled her wrist free. She looked at the red mark his fingers had left on her skin. Her breathing changed. Victor saw it and softened his voice at once. "Darling," he said, "I'm under pressure. You know how business is." Clara did not answer. He reached for her again. She stepped back. It was small, but I saw it. So did Victor. His mask slipped. "You are embarrassing me," he said through his teeth. Clara's eyes filled again, but this time she did not look at me for help. Good. She needed to see him herself. From inside the hall, Evelyn called out, "Clara, Victor, everyone is waiting." Victor fixed his jacket like he could fix his life the same way. Then he leaned close to me and whispered, "Whatever you think you know, mechanic, bury it." I looked at him calmly. "Not anymore." His eyes narrowed. I stepped closer and lowered my voice so only he could hear. "You built your throne on stolen ground, Victor. Tonight the floor starts moving." For the first time he did not laugh. The hallway door opened again. A staff member looked nervous. "Mr. Hale," he said, "there are people from the city office at the front entrance. They're asking for you." Victor went still. Clara's hand went to her mouth. Evelyn appeared behind the staff member, smiling at first. Then she saw Victor's face. "What happened?" she asked. No one answered. The music inside the hall kept playing, soft and beautiful, like it had no idea the wedding was beginning to rot from the inside. I picked up my black gift bag from the floor. It was empty now, just like the place in my heart where Clara used to live. I walked past Victor. He grabbed my arm. "You are not leaving," he said. I looked down at his hand, then back at him. "You already made the whole room watch me," I said. Now let them watch you. I pulled my arm free and stepped back into the wedding hall. Every head turned, every smile waited, and behind me, Victor Hales stood in the doorway, finally understanding that the poorest-looking man in the room might be the one person he should never have laughed at. When I stepped back into the wedding hall, the laughter was still waiting for me. People sat with their champagne glasses raised, their fake smiles ready, their eyes hungry for more drama. They thought I had run away to cry in the hallway. They thought Victor had put me in my place. They were wrong. The wedding planner stood near the stage, nervous now. The band played softly, but even the music felt unsure. Evelyn walked in behind me, her face tight, trying to keep control of a night that had started slipping out of her hands. Victor came last. His smile was back, but it looked painted on. Clara followed him slowly, holding her wrist close to her chest. I noticed the red mark he had left on her skin. So did a few guests, but they looked away. Rich people had a strange talent for not seeing things that made them uncomfortable. Victor walked to the center of the hall and lifted both hands. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice smooth again. "Forgive the small interruption. Some people bring old emotions to places where they do not belong." A few guests chuckled. His eyes moved to me. "But tonight is not about the past," he continued. "Tonight is about success, family, power, and the future." Evelyn clapped first. Others followed. Clara did not clap. She stood beside Victor like a woman who had just seen a crack in the bridge under her feet. I stayed near the back, my empty black gift bag hanging from my hand. Victor looked at me and smiled. That smile said, "You lost," but his phone was still in his hand, and his fingers were shaking. The wedding planner tried to move things forward. "We will now invite our honored guests to offer their blessings." Before she could finish, the main doors opened. Not softly, not quietly. They opened wide. The room turned. 2 city officers entered first, dressed in dark suits. Behind them walked Mayor Thomas Reed. The whole hall changed. People stood up without being told. Mayor Reed was not just a politician in our town. He was the man people trusted when factories closed, storms hit, or families needed help. He had gray hair, tired eyes, and the kind of calm voice that made liars nervous. Victor's face lit up for half a second. He thought the mayor had come for him. Of course he did. He stepped forward with open arms. "Mayor Reed," Victor said loudly, "what perfect timing. Please come bless our wedding." Mayor Reed did not smile. That was the first thing everyone noticed. The second thing they noticed was his daughter beside him, Maya Reed. I remembered her from the hospital years ago. Back then, she had been sitting on the floor outside the emergency room, crying into her hands because her younger brother needed surgery their insurance would not cover in time. She looked different now, older, stronger. But when her eyes found mine, she gave me a small nod, not surprise. Respect. Victor noticed that nod. His smile weakened. Mayor Reed walked past him. The room stayed silent. Every step sounded clear on the marble floor. Victor turned slowly as the mayor moved by him without stopping. Evelyn's lips parted. Clara's eyes followed the mayor until they landed on me. I did not move. I did not smile. I only stood there while the most powerful man in town walked across the wedding hall toward the poor mechanic everyone had just laughed at. Mayor Reed stopped in front of me. For a second, no one breathed. Then he lowered his head. Not a small nod. "A real beau. Mr. Cole," he said, his voice carrying through the hall. "I apologize for being late. This town owes you more than it can ever repay." The room went dead silent. Not quiet. Dead. Like someone had cut the heart out of the music. A glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered near table 5. No one moved to clean it. I felt every eye on me. Clara's face went pale. Victor stared like the world had suddenly spoken a language he did not understand. Evelyn whispered, "Mr. Cole?" I looked at Mayor Reed and gave him a small nod. "You did not need to do that." "Yes," he said, "I did." Victor forced a laugh. It sounded ugly in the silence. "I'm sorry," he said, stepping forward. "There must be some mistake. Mayor, this is Ethan Cole. He runs a repair shop." Mayor Reed turned to him. His eyes were cold. "I know exactly who he is." Victor's jaw tightened. "Then why are you bowing to him?" Maya answered before her father could.
"Because my brother is alive because of him."
Clara's hand flew to her mouth. The guests began whispering. I looked away because I did not like this part. I had never helped people so they would clap for me. I had done it because I knew what it felt like to sit beside a hospital bed and pray money would stop deciding who got to live. Maya stepped closer. 3 years ago, she said, my little brother needed emergency surgery. The hospital said the payment delay could cost him his life. A man paid the full amount before sunrise and asked that his name never be shared. Her eyes moved to me. That man was Ethan Cole. A low wave of shock moved through the room. Clara stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. I hated that look. Because once she had seen me better than anyone, Mayor Reed continued, and that was only the beginning. Victor shook his head. "No, this is ridiculous. The mayor ignored him. When the North Housing Project almost collapsed, Mr. Cole funded it through a private trust. When the children's clinic needed equipment, he paid for it. When 200 workers were about to lose their jobs because a certain company broke its promise, his eyes cut to Victor. Mr. Cole stepped in quietly. Now the whispers became louder. People turned toward Victor. Victor's face hardened. "Careful, Mayor." Mayor Reed did not blink. "No, Mr. Hale, you should have been careful." The room felt smaller, hotter. Victor looked at me with new eyes now, not mocking, not amused. Afraid, Clara took one slow step away from him. It was small, but the room saw it. Evelyn saw it too and rushed toward her daughter. "Clara, stand beside your fiancé," she whispered. Clara did not move. Her eyes stayed on me. "Ethan," she said softly. You did all that?" I looked at her. The same woman who had laughed at my father's box now stood under gold lights with shame, trembling across her face. "I did what I could," I said. Her voice broke. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" I almost laughed. "Would it have changed how you treated me?" She lowered her eyes. There was the answer. Victor stepped forward, trying to pull the room back under his control. "This is touching," he said, clapping slowly. "Very dramatic. A secret charity man. Wonderful. But let us not forget this is my wedding." Mayor Reed looked at him. "No," he said, "this is now an official matter." The two city officers moved closer. The hall went cold. Victor's smile died completely. "What does that mean?" Evelyn asked. Mayor Reed held out a folder. "This means Mr. Hale's company is under investigation for fraud, illegal fund transfers, and false public donation claims." A sharp gasp spread across the room. Clara turned to Victor. "Victor?" He pointed at the mayor. "This is a lie." Maya looked at Clara with sad eyes. "No," she said. "The lie was the life he sold you." Victor's face twisted. He looked at me. "You did this?" he said. I stepped forward slowly. The whole room watched my every move. "No," I said. "You did this. I only stopped paying for your silence." He laughed once, but there was no power left in it. "You think you can ruin me?" I looked around the hall. At the guests who had laughed. At Evelyn, whose pride was cracking. At Clara, whose wedding dress now looked less like a dream and more like a cage. Then I looked back at Victor. "I don't need to ruin you," I said. "Truth is already doing that." Mayor Reed opened the folder and placed several documents on the gift table, right beside the diamonds, envelopes, and my father's wooden box. That box looked different now. Not cheap, not small. It looked like the only honest thing in the room. Victor's breathing grew heavy. "Clara," he snapped. "Come here." She flinched, but she did not go to him. The room noticed. Victor noticed too. His eyes turned dark. I said, "Come here." I looked at Clara, but I did not speak. This choice had to be hers. For once, no one could make it for her. Clara looked at Victor's hand, then at the red mark on her wrist, then at me. Her lips trembled. "I need to know the truth," she whispered. Victor's face changed into something ugly. "The truth," he said. "The truth is you were lucky I chose you," the hall gasped. Evelyn whispered, "Victor, stop." But he was already losing control. He pointed at Clara in front of everyone. "Do you think I needed you? Your family name helped me look clean." That was all. Clara's face broke. I saw the exact moment her perfect wedding died. Not when the mayor bowed, not when the fraud came out. It died when she realized the rich man she chose had never loved her better than I did. He had only priced her higher. Maya stepped beside me and said quietly, "I did not look at her." "Oh!" I said, "But I'm standing." She nodded. "That counts." Mayor Reed turned to the officers. "Please escort Mr. Hale to a private room. He has questions to answer." Victor stepped back. "You can't do this here." Mayor Reed's voice stayed calm. "You chose a public image. You can face public questions." The officers moved toward Victor. Guests stood from their seats, whispering, filming, backing away from him like his shame could stain their clothes. Victor looked at me one last time. The hate in his eyes was pure. "This isn't over," he said. I met his stare. "For me," I said. It ended the moment she laughed. Clara heard it. Her shoulders shook. Victor was led toward the side door, still arguing, still threatening, still trying to sound powerful while everyone watched him fall apart. Then the mayor turned back to me. The room waited. I hated that silence more than their laughter, because now they wanted a speech. They wanted the poor man to forgive them with beautiful words, so they could feel clean again. I walked to the gift table and picked up my father's wooden box. The same box they had laughed at, the same box Clara had held like a joke. I faced the room. "My father made this with his hands," I said. "Those hands fixed your cars, your doors, your heaters, your broken things. He never became rich, but he never cheated anyone. He never stepped on anyone to feel tall." No one spoke. I looked at Clara, and once he believed this box would carry wedding rings. Her tears finally fell. I closed the box, but tonight it carried something else. I looked around the hall. It carried the truth about everyone who touched it. Evelyn looked away. Clara covered her mouth and cried silently. Mayor Reed lowered his head again, but this time I gently stopped him. "Please," I said. No more bowing, he nodded. I turned toward the exit. Behind me, Clara's voice broke through the silence. Ethan, wait. I stopped. The whole room waited with me. I did not turn around yet, because I knew if I looked at her too soon, I might see the girl I once loved. And I was not sure I could survive losing her twice in one night. Clara said my name again. Ethan, wait. The whole wedding hall held its breath. I stood near the exit with my father's wooden box in my hand. My back was toward her, but I could feel her eyes on me. I could feel everyone watching us like this was some final scene in a play they had paid to enjoy. Only this was not a play, this was my life, and the woman behind me had laughed at the last piece of my father's love. I slowly turned around. Clara stood in the middle of the hall, still wearing her white wedding dress, but she no longer looked like a bride. She looked like someone who had walked into a dream and found a locked door inside it. Her makeup was starting to break under her tears. Her hand was still near the red mark on her wrist. "What do you want, Clara?" I asked. My voice was calm, but my chest was not. She took one step toward me. "I didn't know," she whispered. The words were small, weak, too late. I looked at her for a long second. "You didn't know about Victor," I said. "But you knew about me." Her face twisted with pain before she could answer. Victor's voice came from the side of the hall. Touching. Everyone turned. The officers had stopped near the private room doors because Victor was refusing to move. His suit was still perfect, but his face was not. His smile was stretched too wide. His eyes were full of anger, fear, and something worse, panic. He pushed one officer's hand away. "Do not touch me," he snapped. "Do you know how many people in this town depend on me?" Mayor Reed looked at him with cold eyes. "No," the mayor said. "They depended on the money you promised and never gave." A heavy silence followed. Victor laughed, but the sound cracked in the middle. "This is politics," he said. "This is a setup." He pointed at me. "He did this because he is jealous, because Clara chose me." Clara flinched. That single word, chose, cut through the room. I did not speak. I wanted Clara to hear him clearly. Victor looked at her, desperate now. "Tell them," he demanded. "Tell them he has been bitter for years. Tell them he came here to destroy us." Clara's lips parted. For 1 second, I saw the old pattern return, her fear, her habit of choosing the safest side, her need to survive by standing near power. Evelyn moved fast and grabbed Clara's arm. "Say something," she whispered. "Do not let this ruin everything." Clara looked at her mother, then at Victor, then at me. Her eyes were full of war.
Victor stepped closer. "Clara, it was not a request, it was a command."
Clara lowered her eyes. My heart sank, even though I told myself it should not matter anymore. Then she spoke. "No." The word was quiet, but it changed the air. Victor froze. Evelyn stared at her daughter like she had been slapped. Clara lifted her head. "No," she said again, louder this time. "I will not lie for you." A wave of whispers moved through the hall. Victor's face turned red. "You don't even understand what is happening," he said. Clara laughed once, but there was no joy in it. "You're right," she said. "I didn't understand. I thought I was choosing safety, but I chose a cage with flowers on it." I felt something tighten inside me. Not hope, not love, just pain finally being named. Victor's eyes went dark. "You ungrateful little." "Finish that sentence," Mayor Reed said sharply, "and it will be added to your list of public mistakes tonight." Victor stopped. The mayor opened the folder again and pulled out a set of printed pages. "These documents show false charity pledges, moved funds, and signed orders to delay worker housing payments," he said. "Several families were almost removed from their homes because of your company." Victor's jaw worked like he wanted to bite through the truth. "That is business," he said. "No," I said. Every eye turned to me. I stepped forward slowly. "That is theft wearing a suit." Victor laughed through his teeth. "And what are you?" he said. "A hero now?" "The poor boy who bought himself respect." I looked at the guests. Some of them lowered their heads. The same people who laughed at me were now afraid to meet my eyes. "I did not buy respect," I said. "I paid debts I did not owe because your greed created them." Victor shook his head. "You think giving money makes you better than me?" "No," I said. "But stealing it makes you worse than everyone here." The room, Victor's control, cracked deeper. He turned toward the guests. "All of you are fools," he shouted. "You smiled when I gave donations. You clapped when I promised jobs. You wanted my money when it made you look close to power." No one answered. Because some of it was true. That was the ugly thing about men like Victor. They did not rise alone. They climbed on silence people gave them. Victor pointed at Evelyn. "And you," he said. "You pushed your daughter toward me because you wanted your family name tied to mine." Evelyn went pale. "Victor, please," she whispered. He smiled now, but it was cruel. "Please?" he said. "You begged me to marry her before my board changed its mind." Clara turned to her mother. "What?" Evelyn's mouth opened. No words came out. Clara's face broke in a new way. "Mom," she whispered, "is that true?" Evelyn looked around the room, trapped by all the eyes she had always tried to impress. I wanted what was best for you, she said. Clara shook her head. No. You wanted what looked best. Those words hit Evelyn harder than any insult. For the first time all night, I almost felt sorry for Clara, almost. Because I knew what it felt like to realize the people closest to you had used your heart as a bargaining chip. Victor took one step back as the officers moved closer again. You cannot arrest me without my lawyer, he said. Mayor Reed nodded. Then call him. But the questions begin tonight. Victor looked at me one last time. His eyes burned. You think this is justice? He asked. I looked at my father's wooden box, then back at him. No, I said. This is consequence. Justice would have come sooner. The officers took his arms. This time, Victor did not fight right away. He looked around the hall, searching for one person still loyal to him. No one moved. Not his friends. Not the business partners. Not Evelyn. Not Clara. That was when his smile finally fell apart completely. And under it there was nothing. No strength. No charm. No king. Just a scared man who had built his life on borrowed lies. As they led him away, he turned and shouted, Clara, you will regret this. Clara did not answer. She only watched him go. The side door closed behind him. The sound echoed through the hall like the final nail in a coffin. For a long moment, nobody spoke. The wedding cake still stood untouched. The flowers still looked perfect. The band still held their instruments. But the wedding was dead. Then Clara slowly walked toward the gift table. My father's wooden box sat in my hands now, but the torn pieces of my old letter were still scattered across the table. She picked up one small piece. Her fingers shook as she read the few words left on it. I don't hate you. Her face crumbled. She looked at me, and this time there was no pride left, only regret. Ethan, she said. I laughed because I was scared. I swallowed hard. There it was, the excuse, maybe the truth, maybe both. She stepped closer. I was scared they would see I still cared, she whispered. I was scared Victor would know. I was scared my mother would hate me. I was scared everyone would think I threw away a rich future for a man they called poor. I looked at her through the heavy silence. And what were you scared I would feel? I asked. She closed her eyes. A tear slipped down her cheek. I didn't think about that. That answer hurt because it was honest. I nodded slowly. Thank you, I said. She looked confused. For what? For finally telling the truth. Her lips trembled. Can we talk? Just us. Evelyn stepped forward. Clara, no, this is not the time. Clara turned on her. No, she said. The time was 3 years ago, and you made sure I wasted it. Evelyn looked like she had aged 10 years in 1 minute. Clara faced me again. Please, she said. 5 minutes, that's all. Maya stood a few feet away, quiet and watchful. Mayor Reed looked at me but did not speak. He understood this choice belonged to me. I wanted to walk out. I wanted to leave Clara standing in that ruined hall with her perfect dress and broken life. But the boy I used to be was still somewhere inside me. The boy who waited 3 years to hear one real apology. So I gave her one small nod. 5 minutes, I said. Clara's shoulders shook with relief, but I raised one finger. Not to fix anything, I said. Only to bury it properly. Her face fell, but she nodded. I walked toward the side hallway with my father's box under my arm. Clara behind me, and every guest watched us leave, not knowing that the worst part of the night was not Victor's downfall. It was the apology that came after the damage was already done. The hallway outside the wedding hall felt colder than before. Maybe it was the rain tapping against the windows. Maybe it was the silence between us. Or maybe it was because, for the first time in 3 years, Clara Whitmore was walking behind me without pretending she was stronger than the truth. I stopped near a small sitting room beside the hall. The door was half open. Inside, there were 2 cream-colored chairs, a glass table, and a mirror with gold edges. It looked like the kind of room where rich people fixed their makeup before returning to their lies. I stepped inside. Clara followed. I did not sit. Neither did she. For a few seconds, we only stood there, facing each other like 2 survivors from the same fire. She looked down at her wedding dress. I used to dream about wearing white, she said softly. I looked at the floor. You got your dream? No, she whispered. I got the dress. That answer hit me harder than I expected. I tightened my grip on my father's wooden box. Say what you need to say, Clara. She looked up. Her eyes were red now, not pretty tears, real ones, the kind that made her face shake. I'm sorry, she said. 2 words, simple, late, dangerous. For 3 years I had imagined hearing them. I thought they would heal something. I thought my chest would open and all the poison would leave, but nothing left. The pain only sat there, tired and heavy. I nodded once. For laughing tonight, her lips trembled. For that, for leaving, for listening to my mother, for choosing Victor, for letting people call you poor like that meant you were less than them. My throat tightened. She took a step closer, but I raised my hand. She stopped. Good. Some lines should not be crossed just because someone finally feels guilty. I need you to understand something, I said. When you left, you did not just break my heart. She swallowed. You made me question every good memory we had, I continued. Every smile. Every promise. Every time you told me you believed in me, her tears fell faster. I did believe in you. No, I said quietly. You believed in me when it was easy. The words landed between us. She covered her mouth, but she did not deny it. That was how I knew she was finally telling the truth. She sat down slowly in one of the chairs, like her legs could not hold her anymore. My mother said I would spend my life counting coins, Clara said. She said love feels beautiful until rent is due. She said I would become bitter, tired and trapped. I looked at her. And you believed her. I was weak, she said. I know that now. I let out a slow breath. No, Clara. You were afraid. Weak people hurt others and call it survival. She looked at me like every word had cut something open. I thought you would hate me, she whispered. I wanted to. Did you? I looked at the wooden box. My father's carving stared back at me. 2 birds under a broken moon. No, I said. That was the worst part. Clara closed her eyes. I loved you after you left, I said. I hated myself for it. I hated that I still checked the street when I heard footsteps. I hated that I kept your ring. I hated that every good thing I built still had your shadow standing near it. Her shoulders shook. Ethan, no, I said. Let me finish. You got to leave without hearing what your leaving did to me. She went still. I stepped closer, but not gently. You left me in a shop full of debt. Beside tools my father would never touch again. You left me with hospital bills, funeral flowers, and people whispering that I was not enough. And tonight, when you laughed, I realized something. What? She whispered. I looked straight at her. You did not leave because I was poor. You left because you were ashamed to stand beside me while I was broken. She broke then, not softly, completely. She bent forward and cried into her hands, her wedding dress spreading around her like spilled snow. I should have felt victory. I should have felt peace. But watching her cry did not give me back one lost night. It did not bring my father back. It did not fix the boy who sat alone after her goodbye, holding a cheap silver ring like it was the last proof he had ever been loved. So I only stood there. After a while, Clara wiped her face and looked at me. Is there any part of you, she asked, that still loves me? That question was cruel because she did not mean it to be. I looked away. The rain hit the window harder. Yes, I said. Her breath caught. But I turned back before hope could grow in her eyes. But not the part that can come back. Her face fell. I hated how much it still hurt to hurt her. She nodded slowly, like she was trying to accept a sentence she had earned. I know I don't deserve another chance, she said, but I needed to ask. You deserved honesty, I said, so I gave it to you. She looked at the box in my hands. Can I see it one more time? Every part of me wanted to say no, but my father had not made the box for revenge. He made it when he believed love could be simple. So I placed it on the glass table. Clara touched the carved birds with 2 fingers. Her voice broke. Your father was always kind to me. He believed you would be family. She shut her eyes. I know. I opened the box and took out the promise ring. Small, silver, almost weightless, but the room felt heavier when I held it. Clara stared at it. I wore that ring for 8 months, she whispered. I used to hide my hand from my mother because I was scared she would make me take it off. I looked at her. But you took it off anyway. She nodded, crying again. Yes, I placed the ring back inside the box, then I closed it. Clara looked scared. What are you going to do with it? I don't know yet. She stood slowly. Ethan, I am sorry for laughing. I nodded. I'm sorry for leaving. I nodded again. I'm sorry I saw your worth only after everyone else was forced to see it. That one stayed with me because it was the truth I needed. Not the truth that healed everything, but the truth that finally named the wound. I picked up the box. I forgive you, Clara. Her eyes widened. Hope flashed across her face like a match in the dark. So I put it out gently. But forgiveness is not a door back into my life. She pressed her lips together. I understand. No, I said softly. You don't. Not yet, but one day you will. The sitting room door opened a little. Maya stood outside, careful and quiet. Sorry, she said. Mayor Reed needs you. The city officers found more documents in Victor's car. Clara's face turned pale again. I looked at Maya. I'll be there. Maya nodded, then glanced at Clara. Not with hate, not with judgment, just sadness. When she left, Clara gave a weak smile. She cares about you. I looked at the door Maya had closed. She respects me, I said. There's a difference. Clara nodded like she deserved that too. I walked toward the door. Before I stepped out, she spoke one last time. Ethan? I stopped. If I had chosen you back then, would we have been happy? The question opened something old in me. A house under the maple tree. My father crying in the front row. Clara laughing in a small kitchen. A life that never got to live. I looked back at her. We would have struggled, I said. We would have fought. We would have counted coins some nights. Her eyes filled again. But yes, I said, I think we would have been happy. She covered her mouth as the truth destroyed her more quietly than Victor ever could. I stepped into the hallway with my father's box in my hand. Behind me, Clara whispered, "I'm sorry." This time I did not turn around, because I finally understood something. Some apologies arrive not to rebuild the bridge. They arrive so you can stop standing in the ashes, waiting for someone to call the fire an accident. By the time I walked back into the wedding hall, the room no longer looked like a celebration. It looked like a beautiful lie after someone had turned the lights on. The flowers were still hanging from the ceiling. The candles still burned on every table. The wedding cake still stood near the stage, perfect and untouched. But nobody was smiling now. Guests whispered in small groups. Some avoided my eyes. Some looked at the floor. A few had already left, probably afraid their names would be tied to Victor's scandal. That was how people were. They laughed loudly when a man was being humiliated. But when the truth arrived, they suddenly forgot how to speak. Mayor Reed stood near the gift table with Maya beside him. The city officers were checking Victor's documents. Evelyn sat in the front row, pale and quiet, as if her pride had finally run out of air. I walked toward the mayor. He looked at the wooden box under my arm and gave me a sad smile. "I'm sorry this happened tonight," he said. I looked around the ruined hall. "No," I said, "maybe it had to." Maya stepped closer. Victor's car had signed papers. Enough to prove he moved money before the housing project collapsed. I nodded slowly. "So the families are safe?" Mayor Reed's face softened. "Yes," he said, "because of you." I looked down. I did not know what to do with praise. Shame had always felt easier because I had lived with it longer. Before I could answer, an older man from one of the front tables walked toward me. I remembered him, Mr. Dalton. Years ago, my father fixed his truck for free when his wife was sick. Tonight, he had laughed when Victor mocked my gift. Now he stood in front of me with wet eyes. "Ethan," he said, "I'm sorry." The room grew quiet again. I looked at him. He swallowed hard. "Your father was a good man." I should have said something. I waited for anger to rise. It did not, only tiredness came. "Yes," I said. "You should have." His face fell. I did not comfort him. Some people wanted forgiveness only because guilt felt heavy in their hands. One by one, a few others came forward. "I'm sorry, Ethan. We didn't know. We thought." They never finished that sentence, because they knew. They had known enough. They knew I was the son of a dead honest man. They knew Clara had once promised me forever. They knew the box was not trash. They laughed anyway. I held up one hand. The apologies stopped. "I don't need all of you to explain," I said. "I don't need you to suddenly respect me because the mayor said my name." No one moved. My father used to say a man's true face comes out when he thinks no one powerful is watching. I looked at the rich guests, the old neighbors, the people who had smiled at my pain. Tonight I saw a lot of faces. Silence filled the room. Then I turned away. I was done. Not because they deserved peace, because I did. Maya followed me outside into the rain-covered entrance. The cold air hit my face, and for the first time all night I felt like I could breathe. "You don't have to leave yet," she said. I looked at the dark sky. "Yes, I do." She stood beside me, quiet for a moment. Then she said, "My father wants to name the new community center after Henry Cole." I looked at her fast. My chest tightened. "What?" She smiled softly. "The town council already agreed. They just needed your permission." For the first time that night, my eyes burned. Not because of Clara, not because of Victor, because my father's name would live somewhere brighter than a debt notice, a gravestone, or an old repair shop sign swinging in the rain. "He would have hated the attention," I said. Maya laughed gently. "Then we'll make the sign simple." I looked at her. She did not look at me like I was a poor man. She did not look at me like I was a hero either. She looked at me like I was human. That felt rare. "Thank you," I said. She nodded. "You looked free when you walked out of that room." I looked back at the hall doors. Behind them were the remains of a wedding, a fallen rich man, and a woman I had once loved with every broken part of me. "Not free," I said, "but closer." Maya accepted that. She did not push. She did not ask for more than I could give. That made me respect her even more. I drove to my father's old workshop before dawn. The rain had stopped, but the streets were still shining under the street lights. The old sign above the shop moved in the wind.
Repairs of us.
Honest work, fair price. I stood under it for a long time. When I unlocked the door, the smell hit me first. Wood, oil, dust, home. Everything was exactly as I had left it. The workbench, the tools, my father's old radio, the chair where he used to sit when his back hurt, but he pretended it did not. I placed the wooden box on the workbench. Then I opened it one last time. The promise ring sat inside. Small silver, silent. For years I thought keeping it meant I was loyal. Now I understood. Keeping it had been my way of staying trapped in the last moment before Clara left. I touched the ring with one finger. "I loved her, Dad," I whispered. The workshop gave no answer, but in my mind I heard my father's voice anyway. "I know, son." I closed my eyes. "I don't want to carry it anymore." My throat tightened. "So I'm leaving it here." I took the ring out and placed it in the center of the wooden box. Then I folded the torn pieces of the old letter as best as I could and placed them beside it. Not to save them, to bury them. The door behind me opened, I turned. Clara stood there in her ruined wedding dress. No flowers now, no diamond smile, no proud mother beside her. Just Clara. For a second, neither of us spoke. She looked around the workshop like she had stepped into a memory she did not deserve to enter. "I thought you might come here," she said. I nodded. "You always knew this place." Her eyes moved to the box. "Is that the ring?" "Yes." She walked closer, slowly, carefully. "I won't ask for it." "Good," I said. She looked hurt, but she accepted it. "I came to say goodbye properly," she whispered. The word goodbye felt different this time. Not like a knife, like a door closing with both people finally seeing it. Clara touched the edge of the workbench. "Your father should have had his name on something important long ago." "He did," I said. She looked at me. I placed my hand on the old wooden table. "He had it here." Her eyes filled again. "I'm sorry I forgot that." I did not answer right away. A part of me wanted to make her hurt more. A part of me wanted to remind her of every cruel word, every silence, every laugh. But I was tired of feeding pain just because it was hungry, so I said, "I know." She took a shaky breath. "Do you forgive me?" I looked at the ring. Then at her. "Yes." Her lips trembled. "But I'm not come back, Clara." She nodded, and this time she did not beg. Maybe that was how I knew she finally understood. "I hope you find peace, Ethan," she said. I gave her a small smile. "I already started." She cried then, but quietly. No performance, no excuse, just loss. She turned to leave, then stopped at the door. "If they name the center after your father," she said, "I'll bring flowers." I looked at her for a long moment, then I nodded. He would like that. Clara stepped out into the pale morning light, and this time I did not follow. I looked back at the box. The ring was inside. The letter was inside. The boy who waited for her was inside too. I closed the lid. Then I left it on the workbench. When I walked out of the shop, the sun was rising over the wet streets. The town looked new, even though nothing had really changed yet. Maybe that was how healing began. Not with the world changing, but with you finally refusing to stand in the same old pain. My phone buzzed. A message from Maya. The council approved it. Henry Cole Community Center. "Your father's name will be on the front." I read it twice. Then I looked up at the sky. For the first time in years, I smiled without forcing it. Behind me, inside the old workshop, the cheap wooden box sat quietly on the table. The same box they had laughed at as proof of character. The same box Clara had finally understood too late. But to me, it was no longer proof of betrayal. It was proof that I had survived it. I walked down the street with empty hands and a lighter heart. And when the town bell rang behind me, I did not look back. Because some people only realize your worth after they lose the right to stand beside you. And some gifts are not meant to be accepted. They are meant to show you who never deserved them.